Hello and welcome. You should be on page 9 of your Algebra 1 Quarter 2 notebook. We're talking about finding roots graphically and algebraically in this video. So in our last video, we talked about graphing with intercepts, but we also talked about what are roots. Roots are where a graph crosses the x-axis. So they are the x-intercepts or the zeros or the solutions of a graph. So I've already kind of put a dot where these are crossing the x-axis, but if I look at this line, you can see that this particular graph crosses the x-axis here at x equals 1. So there is a root at 1, 0. So the root of this particular graph is at x equals 1, 1, 0. This graph here crosses at negative 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is a root at negative 4, 0. Alrighty, let's look at this graph. If you remember, a graph can have one root, no roots, or more than one root. So here I see the graph is crossing the x-axis at x equals negative 1, 2, 3, 4, at negative 1, and at 2. So there are 3 roots with this graph, one at negative 4, 0, one at negative 1, 0, and one at 2, 0. This graph, this parabola, on the other hand, you can see it does not cross the x-axis at all. This is a situation where there are no roots. Okay, let's move on to page 10, and we're going to practice a few times solving for roots algebraically. So we're going to find the solutions of each equation. In other words, find the x value when f of x equals 0 or y equals 0. And essentially, I need to find the x-intercepts or the value of y when the value of x when y equals 0. So remember, I want y to equal 0. So if I rewrite this, just really quickly use the symmetric property, 3x plus 2 equals y, which is 0. Now I'm going to solve this by subtracting 2 from both sides. I get 3x equals negative 2. Divide by 3. And my root is at negative 2/3. So this particular graph crosses the x-axis at negative 2/3, 0. Let's take a look at our next one. Remember, y needs to equal 0. So I'm going to simply substitute here. 4x plus 3 times 0 equals negative 8. 4x, so that equals 0, equals negative 8. Divide by 4, and x equals a negative 2. So I have a root at negative 2, 0. This particular line crosses the x-axis at negative 2, 0. Last one, I'll just rewrite it really quickly. Negative 1/2 x plus 3. I want f of x to equal 0. So I'm going to set that equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I get negative 1/2 x equals negative 3. Going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. That cancels, and I get x equals 6. So this graph crosses at 6, 0, the x-axis. Now, that is it for finding roots graphically and algebraically. Thanks so much. Have a great day.